NFL free agency began on Monday. And guess what? My Saints, who started with the lowest amount of cap space ever, which is a negative $67 million, went out and signed some pretty big free agents. Well, I guess free agency is just another euphemism for whose line is it anyway, where the salary cap rules are made up and the dollars don't matter. Guys, welcome to Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores
and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball Box Scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
All right, Manny. Let's kick off
Cheers.
with a cheers.
JB, welcome back. Welcome to another weekly episode. I'm glad we're here.
I am too. Clink, clink.
Whew.
So let's get into NFL free agency, and to my surprise, how the Saints were able to give $51 million to Chase Young for what, which I don't mind Chase Young, but he's a rotational guy. And his stats against backup O linemen and against quarterbacks when the play broke down. It's not like he's manning himself in. It's not like he's like beasting into the backfield. It's just, and they look, he took advantage of opportunities. I'll say that. Is that worth $51 million? No, it's not. But to go get Justin Reed, they outbid two other teams for Justin Reed. That's insane. That's crazy talk right there. Oh, man, he left. Yeah. Guys, look, if you're out there, you're watching, why don't you chime in on the YouTubes, on the comments. Let us know how your team did on free agency or how they didn't do on free agency. Because I got some thoughts that I want to say about some old Dallas Cowboys who, again, are not spending any money. And coming from an owner who's sitting there saying, we're all in. Sounding like Luke from Gilmore Girls. I'm all in. And then nothing's happening. Yeah, sounds like another Jerry Jones type off season. But, man, I got to tell you, it's, I don't know about you, but I was a little underwhelmed. And maybe it's just because I was just focused on really on where the quarterbacks were going to go. I don't know what Seattle's doing. To trade Geno and then to spend $110 million to bring in a guy who's going to throw two weapons who are like clearly subpar to what he had in Minnesota.
Stop today.
Nothing
Sorry
against
about that.
JSN, but I mean, he's not Justin Jefferson. Man, he's back. All right. Yes. That's all right. I was telling him about how I just felt this NFL free agency felt underwhelming. And I think for me, I was really looking at where the quarterbacks were going to go. And there's still so much more that's going to flesh itself out. And I think that's what's most surprising to me, is that usually there's this bum rush. It's an avalanche of moves. And then day 2 or day 3 is when they're like, hey, remember that pledge sheet I signed? I'm just kidding. I'm going to this guy anyway.
Maybe going back to Pittsburgh.
But there's still so many moves that need to be happening. You got Russell Wilson maybe going to the Browns, maybe going to the Giants. Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, that's the one that I was waiting for you to bring up.
Steelers, maybe going to the Giants. There's been a whisper of the Vikings, maybe, which would like just be so poetic. Like how many Packer quarterback journeys are going to go from Green Bay to the Jets to the Vikings?
It's been in the radar since Aaron Rodgers kind of was leaving the Packers and when going to the Jets. We started talking. Honestly, the conversations instantly started about, well, what if he goes to the Vikings after? He could do the funniest thing if he went to the Vikings. And so that whole conversation has been slowly brewing. It's hard to tell if that's actually something that's developing seriously because like the Vikings everybody thinks that the Vikings not bringing in a big name means that they kind of want to have like an Aaron Rodgers and waiting for it to get cheaper. I honestly think the Vikings are just content with having JJ McCarthy be the starter and
Yeah.
they don't want to bring anybody else to cause any drama. He was supposed to be
Yeah.
the starter last year. He got hurt, and thus you had the whole Sam Darnold
And it
situation
should be.
develop. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be JJ McCarthy, which goes
Yeah.
to show that the Vikings felt he was ready. So them not having any kind of rumblings about anybody coming in probably is
Yeah. There he goes again. He's gone. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, no, what he was talking about, Minnesota, like I've been saying all off season is that you should buy into JJ McCarthy. Buy into what he can do for your team. Believe in the weapons. You still got Aaron Jones back there. You got Justin Jefferson you can throw to. You got an O-line that can keep McCarthy up. And you got a defense, really, if we're going to be honest with you, that defense was the one that was really winning those games in the second half of the season for Minnesota. So JJ McCarthy being the starter here is not really that much of a stretch. And I I I would always subscribe to the idea that if you have a quarterback who you believe could be ready or is probably close to ready, um, uh, go to him instead of allocating resources to another quarterback who is probably maybe gonna gonna stunt the development of the other guy. Especially JJ's been sitting for a whole year. He was hurt. He suffered through that. He was able to watch Sam Darnold play. Sam Darnold got his bag, but he got it from another team. Minnesota can now, like they've already started, reallocating those funds to other parts of the squad, which I mean honestly is nothing short of a good thing. I want to talk about Geno Smith. So Geno Smith, uh, he kind of revived his career in Seattle, revived it under Pete Carroll, who is of course now the head coach for Vegas. Vegas goes out and they trade for Geno. Vegas trades, I think, kind of a premium for Geno. I mean, you can make the argument, but really, it's really just all you did was swap Devontae Adams for Geno Smith. And if you look at it that way, okay, I can see that. All they did was use the third round pick they got for Devontae and shipped it off to Seattle. I think Geno's in a pretty good spot. I mean, you got Pete Carroll, like I said, he was the one that helped Geno revive his career. And you got Chip Kelly there as the OC, who we just saw what Chip Kelly was able to do in Ohio State with Will Howard at the helm. And so Chip Kelly coming back to the NFL, he's not running the whole show. He's just running the offense, which I think is where Chip Kelly could excel so well, is being able to just be the head of this one part of the organization, this one singular focus. And helping devise a scheme that's going to help bring out the most out of these players. And Geno's going to have Geno was throwing. He had DK Metcalf for half a season last year. JSN, even throughout the whole season, at the end of that season, JSN was still lighting it up. But he's got a weapon now that seems to be just unstoppable, and that's Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers put up crazy video game numbers. I mean, this dude was a cheat code all season, and somehow he flew under the radar. And I think it's just probably because he played for Vegas, and the Raiders just underperformed in almost every single area. That you really didn't think that a rookie tight end was going to put up those kind of numbers when his quarterbacks were Aiden Connell and Gardner Minshew. So when the Irishman and Jorts are throwing to you, I mean, I'm not really sure you're expecting him to do much, especially as a rookie. But man, he put on absolute show. And Geno going to to Vegas, excuse me. And I know they still got they got a lot of question marks with that running game, a lot of question marks. And then, which hopefully with that 6th pick, they take Genty. If Genty's still on the board, they could absolutely use him. And if not, just keep building in the interior. I think, that O line's going to get better, especially with Jackson Powers Johnson, the kid from Oregon, moving from guard to center. He's going to be wonderful there. I was a huge advocate for him coming out of the draft, and I really wanted him to go to the Saints at some point, but I knew whoever would get him was going to be just that O line was going to be better because of him, because he can be plug and play. And him shifting over to center, um, Vegas is going to have a better offensive line this year. And I think the growth of the offensive line going into 2025 is going to be a better O line than what Geno experienced in Seattle this past season. So I'm excited to see what Geno does. I'm really excited to see how Chip Kelly plays him. I want to see what kind of scheme is actually going to happen there. Because I don't know if Vegas really Vegas of course doesn't have the weapons that Will Howard had to play with at Ohio State. Absolutely not even close. So being able to sit there and say, okay, we're going to open up the ground game by going vertical. I don't know if that's exactly what's going to happen here in Vegas. There's going to have to be some major changes that happen, especially in that wide receiver room. And then you're going to need, like I said, a decent running back in that backfield. And that's where I think Ashton Genty could come into play and really just really change the scope of that offense. But let's go to Chicago, because I'm really impressed. I know in off seasons past, they're like, hey, let's give Ryan Poles an A+ on the moves he's making. Yay! But this season seems to be the season where Ryan Poles is shining the most. He is doing what every GM and organization should be doing when you have a young quarterback at the helm, and he is rebuilding the interior O. And you already have 2 homegrown tackles who love pancakes more than anybody. And then you went out and you got 2 guards. You got 2 guards through trade. And one of which is I'm incredibly surprised. It's one thing to go get Jonah Jackson. Okay, whatever. He didn't really play enough snaps last year. He's not a terrible guard, but he is an upgrade to what they had last year. But the Chiefs trading Joe Thuney, that makes 0 sense to me, because, well, Mahomes already has enough problems staying upright. Why would you trade one of your best O linemen? I don't understand that. But the Bears having those homegrown tackles in Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, and then going out and getting Thuney and Jackson, but then you already have who I think is one of the best centers in the game, Drew Dahlman. He's already dominant as it is. Ryan Poles is taking the proverb of not building your house on the sand, and he's taking it a step further. He is saying, okay, Caleb, look, last year obviously was a growth year for you. This year, not only are you going to have the weapons on the outside, you are going to have an O-line that's going to help keep you upright. And so, but the Bears are also a team that they've absolutely been looking at being able to go and get Ashton Denty. And I'm trying to pull up the draft order right now for this season. Let me see. I can't remember if Chicago holds a higher pick than Vegas does. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if, let's see where the Bears fall. Okay, so Vegas picks before the Bears do. Okay, so yeah, they pick. Okay, yeah, so Vegas is going to pick before the Bears, and I honestly, they have to go out. You have to go out and get Genty if you're Vegas. But if you're, Ryan Poles and the Bears, I don't know, maybe go out and get another outside weapon. Maybe if Tyler Warren's available, go get Tyler Warren. Go give, like I said, stack Give Caleb Williams all the weapons he could possibly imagine that you can go out and that you can acquire in order to help him succeed, because it's gonna be, it's not for nothing to go out and to help your starting quarterback go out there and especially your second year guy to go out there and just perform and put him in a position to excel, and that's going to be nothing but a good thing. And so you have that in Chicago. My biggest question is what is going on in New Orleans. Now, I'm a Saints fan. Those of you who have listened to the pod know that. It's not the fact that they've kept Derek Carr. Okay, I understand want to try to make the marriage work. Okay, I get it. All right, you don't want a marriage to fall apart because you've had some rough patches. I understand that, but to sit there and to pretend that you don't already have a guy in the wings, in the waiting behind Derek Carr to take over is just foolish to me. I think Spencer Rattler's not, he's not going to be a bad quarterback. And to sit there and judge Rattler's performance behind that O-line last year and just how inept the Saints were on every side of the ball is completely unfair. And it's I mean, obviously, I mean, it is the most unfair to him. And I'm hearing all these stories about, well, hey, they can go get Joe Milton from the Patriots. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I mean, Joe Milton wasn't bad in Tennessee, but I'm like, I'm not sold on what I saw from Joe Milton. I mean, I know he had a great game that last game of the season, but is this another Matt Flynn thing? Is this when we're like going crazy because, oh, look how great he was in the preseason? Let's go be Seattle and give him $70 million to go be our starting quarterback, which, by the by, he's going to lose because we're going to draft a guy from Wisconsin. Look, nothing to say against Joe Milton, but you have to at least give Spencer Rattler an opportunity here. And they've already kicked the can down the road for Derek Carr. He's going to be, he's obviously going to be on the team this year. I'm starting to think he may be less likely next year. He's got less of a cap hit next year. And for the first time in, I don't know, since Moses saw the burning bush, the Saints are going to be in the black. I mean, right now, I mean, I looked at it today, and I was so surprised to see it. They're slated to be $37 million of free cap space before the offseason even begins, which is just unreal to me. And so, which, I mean, as a Saints fan, makes me happy because that means that money that they've been kicking down the road is coming to an end. Hey, Manny's back. Yes. Awesome.
I could hear. I heard everything. I heard your spiel about the Saints and how you feel about all the Derek Carr and who he has in his backseat waiting for him to slip up. I would expect that to happen at some point early on in the season. Personally, I think Derek Carr won't be the starter for your beloved Saints for the entire season, just based off of what we've seen in the past. I think it's going to be Rattler's team going into the future. Why not? I mean, at this point, they have nothing to lose. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's what I was saying. I hope that's true. But all of the rumors that have been going around saying that since the Patriots went and got Jacoby Brissett, now Joe Milton's available. And so they're like, and the smoke already was before the offseason even began.
I don't understand why
the Saints were going to go get Joe Milton.
How many quarterbacks do you need in the backseat in your quarterback room are unproven? At some point, you either bring somebody that's proven or you decide to stick with somebody and develop them. And this is cumbersome to the entire league. Some of the key players, as far as teams that are looking for quarterbacks, I'm getting tired of seeing all these teams trying to do plug and play with these like established quarterbacks. How about they just get a quarterback coach and get a good system in place and get a good culture for your for
Mhm.
your quarterbacks to succeed, and then you develop those guys, you draft them well, and then you bring them up to par to what your franchise is expecting. That is just across the board, and the Saints are a perfect example of that. With the
Yeah.
bringing in the free agency moves, we
Yeah.
saw the Colts are bringing in Daniel Jones to compete for the starting job with
Mhm.
Anthony Richardson. We continue to see Pittsburgh wanting to play plug and play with these quarterbacks because they're a
Mhm.
ready
Yeah.
franchise that can win now, and they're trying to bring in another established quarterback instead of drafting guys and
Mhm.
bringing them in. The Vikings are possibly another example of that. We want to I want to see what happens with the JJ McCarthy, and like I kind of had a chance to bring up before I continuously disconnected. I think they're not doing that. I think they're sticking with JJ McCarthy. But besides that, all this trades and free agency, like second tier pickups that are happening with the quarterback market, keeps showing us that teams don't necessarily want to put in the work to develop quarterbacks at this point. They just want something cushy that they could just plug in and say, "Wait, yeah, we can win with this guy now," instead of having a long-term solution.
Yeah, I don't no. So going back to that, and I want to keep talking about this quarterback talk because I think so. I don't like nosy neighbors. Okay, I'm not a fan of neighbors who are going to sit here and say, "Oh, hey, did you see that house?
Yeah.
Like, look how great that house is. Look how great that family is. Wow, I wish I could be like that family." Well, I can tell you who doesn't feel that way, even though the house was all in order, and that was Justin Fields. Justin Fields was 4-2 as a starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then for some odd reason, Russell was healthy, and they're like, Justin, thanks, little buddy. We're gonna have Russ do this. And then they brought Russ in. Russ did okay until the last 4 games of the season, and they fell flat. They did absolutely nothing.
The
And
Jets. Yep.
then Justin grabs his bag and goes to the Jets. Now, what I don't understand is all of this narrative, these this neighborly chit chat about how Pittsburgh wanted to keep Justin Fields in in the locker room, even though he was 4-2 when they benched him, and then they at the end of the season said, "We want Justin more than Russ." If you wanted Justin more than Russ, you would have started Justin
Hmm.
after Russ dropped the first 2 of those last 4 games of the season. You would have put Justin back in there. Except no, you let down the door to the attic. The stairs came down. Justin came out, ran the field, did his one gimmick play in the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter, and everyone was like, "Ooh, I wonder what's going to happen here." We all knew what was going to happen there. And then you just put him back on the sideline and put him back in the attic again. I don't understand what these NFL writers are like. And I understand what they're doing. They're trying to get clicks. I get it. It's the same reason you have these dumbass NBA writers who are saying, "Hey, Charles Barkley's right, but uh, but he's completely wrong. We should all be paying attention
Yeah.
to the Lakers." Well, which one is it? It can't be both at the same time. So if Justin wasn't good enough as the starter at 4-2, then what makes Justin feel like he's going to be good
Yeah.
enough to
I
come
mean,
back next
I
season
have mixed feelings
to
about the
compete with the guy
Justin
that's going to be
Fields
behind
experiment
him
with
again?
Pittsburgh, because that honestly, the offense with him, that the Pittsburgh offense with him leading it, looked very sluggish, and the reason they were winning games didn't seem to have to do as much with Justin Fields as it did with the defense. But besides that, I mean, you do bring up a good point. As far first off, we've all have experienced how much you love sports journalism and on the mainstream media. Like that is not that is not a well kept secret on your behalf. Yeah. But but you bring up a good point about Pittsburgh kind of playing wishy-washy with them, and even now there's a very good possibility. I think uh last free agency visits that I saw involving Pittsburgh was that Russell Wilson was going to Cleveland, and then New York, and one of those two teams was going to try making sure that he didn't leave without a deal. And if they don't get him, and Aaron Rodgers decides to do some crazy thing, like maybe go to the Vikings, Pittsburgh's without a quarterback. And then what are they going to do? That's, again, the wishy-washy catches up to you eventually. And I personally feel like maybe Pittsburgh has to go through this bit of a rough patch because they've played this game for so long. They got 40, 30 years of great quarterback play with two quarterbacks. It was Bradshaw and Roethlisberger that got them all their Super Bowls. Yeah.
Well, they went from Bradshaw
to
Slash.
Since then, they've been trying to do this wishy-washy. Let's find a good quarterback and not develop it. So I wouldn't feel as bad if Pittsburgh kind of had to play their cards in the draft way and kind of go through some growing pains with developing a quarterback. But that's just the game that they're deciding to play, and I think it's eventually going to catch up to them personally.
Yeah, and it's if they fail on Rodgers, which I don't see likely. I think if Rodgers has a place to go, it will be Pittsburgh. But let's say they fail, they swing and miss on Rodgers, they swing and miss and bring in
There's
Russ
nobody
back.
else out there.
Where do they go? Other than trading a day 2 pick to maybe Atlanta to try to get Kirk Cousins to come over there. And then maybe you trade. I mean, I don't know. People are talking about trading a 3rd-round pick to go get Joe Milton. Why would you trade a 3rd-round pick to go get a guy who looked good the last game of the season for a Patriot team that the bar was so low that, I mean, midgets could do limbo easily. Like, it doesn't make any sense why you would spend premium picks on a quarterback who's not proven himself. And I was saying that before you got on. It's like, this seems like a Matt Flynn situation all over again. He's going to do well in the preseason. Seattle's going to give him $70 million to be their starter. And here comes Russell Wilson.
Personally,
he's the starter
let's
now.
be honest.
So
seeing what Russell Wilson did for the Steelers,
sense to me.
Is it really an upgrade to bring in somebody like Kirk Cousins and put him in that offense? Is it really? If you think about the type of player Kirk Cousins showed this last season, I get he's coming off injury, and supposedly he was fighting through injury towards the end of that season where he started having a decline. Do we see things in Kirk Cousins that are that much more stellar than what we see out of Russell Wilson? It's pretty. I hate to say it. I'm not a quarterback.
No, I mean,
it could be.
Honestly,
Russell Wilson has shown he could do it.
I think you get further with Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson isn't coming off a bum leg. Russell Wilson's actually gone to the Super Bowl. He's actually. I mean, I mean, I'm just sitting there saying that if they swing and miss on Russ, if they swing and miss on Rodgers, where are you going to go? Unless you're going to take that premium pick to go get a guy like Joe Milton or maybe Hendon Hooker. Bring him in. Develop, like, bring in a guy that you can at least develop since Mike Tomlin is not going to, he has not cultivated a culture where you're going to get a pick within the first 19 picks.
Here's
not the top
10. 4 points that I want to bring up. Number one, Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh doesn't seem to fit because Aaron Rodgers likes the spotlight, and Mike Tomlin is not going to ride well with the attention that Aaron Rodgers asks for when it comes to like his off-field stuff. So I don't like that necessarily. But besides that, if you are Pittsburgh and you actually want to go get a quarterback and you don't want to go through the drafting route, there's 3 places you should really call. 1, call the Colts. If the Colts are so unsure about Anthony Richardson, go get Anthony Richardson. Put him under Mike Tomlin and see how well he develops under a competent coach that has been doing it for years and knows how to run a team really well. With a 22, 23-year-old quarterback that Anthony Richardson is, he just needs a good system in place. Go get him. Colts probably would not fight it too much. If that doesn't work, call Arizona. For the same points that I've just said about Anthony Richardson, Arizona seems to be a little bit of wishy-washy on what they want to do with Kyler Murray. Call them. Ask them what they want to do. And lastly, the most aim for the fences kind of approach. If the 49ers are on the path that we kind of are under feeling about, which is that they're kind of breaking it all down and going to start rebuilding, call them and see if you can get Brock Purdy. Give them some picks. Sign Brock Purdy. 49ers don't have to worry about making that decision. The Steelers have a young quarterback that's been to a Super Bowl. Again, you can develop him well. He's already has the experience. You never know. You can have a franchise quarterback there. So those are the 4 things that maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers should consider. It's not the worst options if you really don't want to draft a guy.
Honestly, out of all of those options you gave, out of all the scenarios, Anthony Richardson seems the most likely. And not because Arizona wouldn't be willing to trade Kyler Murray. I don't think Pittsburgh wants to take on Kyler Murray's contract. But if you can go out and you can get Anthony Richardson, and I wouldn't call Shane Steichen a bad coach. I would call Mike Tomlin a much more experienced coach. So just having that guy come in there. Mike Tomlin is a no-nonsense type of guy. Anthony Richardson's going to ask to be put on the sideline.
You're running 20 miles tomorrow just to
not in my
make
house.
sure you're conditioned.
You're staying on the field. And so, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And because they got Mason Rudolph on the sideline, Mike Tomlin doesn't want him at the quarterback. So, and it's just real interesting to see what's going to happen with these quarterbacks with this carousel of quarterbacks here, because I can't remember a year where I've seen so much quarterback
trade way. It's not free agency necessarily. It's the trades that have been happening that have been more astonishing. We were both surprised when the Geno Smith trade happened. And I was texting you instantly, and somehow, for some reason, Pete Carroll really likes Geno Smith. Whatever he sees in him in Seattle, he wanted it. Yeah.
I mean, Geno revived his career under Pete. So Pete was the one that gave Geno a shot, and Geno.
The last free agency topic that I want to touch on real quick.
Why the hell not?
Is
why not?
The contract negotiations of Myles Garrett and how bad he made us look. We had a whole conversation about the 3 players that had asked for trades last week, and we said Myles Garrett out of the 3 should be the one that for sure should get a new start, and he out of the 3 is the one that money spoke louder than words, and he's staying put. And that's the most unhappy I've been for a player. I mean, I shouldn't be unhappy for him. He's obviously going to be happy with the millions of dollars he's going to get. But it just made no sense for him to take the stance of, I want to win, but if you gave me enough money, I don't really care about winning that much.
Yeah. It's real easy to crap
and
on
their
the
favorite
Browns
color is
because,
brown.
well, they are the Browns, and we drop them off at school every day. But so just it's Myles Garrett makes that team better, and if the Browns are doing something to keep good players in the clubhouse, then do it. And I'm certainly not going to fault them on paying a guy who is clearly one of the best at his position, and to help elevate that defense and to see what happens with Cleveland, which is why I think Russell Wilson would do well in Cleveland. I think he'd do really well.
No.
And so Cleveland's not a big market team by any stretch. So you don't have to worry about trying to overcome, obstacles in the public eye because people forget Cleveland play football. We just forget. And then it's your opportunity to kind of remake yourself. And then imagine if you're the guy who leads Cleveland to the playoffs. Imagine that.
Well,
imagine what your life could be like.
Well, the last guy that led Cleveland to the playoffs was Baker
can
Mayfield, and they decided after leading them to the playoffs, the appropriate thing to do was get rid of him. So maybe that's not the best. That's not the best career path for a Cleveland quarterback. But I will say this. Yeah, but not by Cleveland. I'm just saying.
It's absolutely good because Baker got paid.
The appreciation for the efforts was not there by Cleveland after he led them to the playoffs. And if I recall, he was Cleveland was on the
Yeah,
doorstep of
I'm talking
upsetting the
about
Chiefs that year where they
so.
made it to the playoffs. But with Russell Wilson, I would like him at Cleveland because Russell Wilson is still getting paid by the Broncos for so long, so you could get him at the cheap, and if you get him at the cheap for the amount of years that you have left on Deshaun Watson's contract as a transition until you ride out that awful contract, and he's just a
Yeah,
bridge quarterback for a
mhm,
complete reset. That would make a lot of
yeah,
sense for the Browns. If you don't have to worry about paying him that
yeah,
much, it makes too much sense. So maybe that's what they're trying to do.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah. All right,
Yes.
let's get to
No,
buy,
North.
balance, or blow it up. So last week we did the NFC
JB,
East, where
what are you
the
thinking
reigning
about? We
Super
did
Bowl
an
champions came
NFC
from.
North
Now we're gonna
first
go to
off,
the AFC
and now we're
East.
going to the East. Yes, we talked about the Lions, Vikings, Bears.
We did NFC North. Oh, my
Yes.
bad.
Yeah,
We
there
did
you go.
NFC North last week. Let's
Yeah.
do the AFC
So
North
in the
this week.
AFC
That makes
North, we
sense.
have a
Let's do
lot of the
that.
same
Yeah,
teams that we've been talking
let's
about,
do that.
which is
Yeah.
Cleveland, Pittsburgh, the Ravens, and the Bengals. Let's start with the division winner of the Ravens. With the Ravens and on the continuous effort that they have to get over the Bills and Chiefs hump, what do you think they should do continuing on through their free agency period and to the draft? Should they buy more
Mm-hmm.
pieces? Should they keep their pieces and just hope continue doing what they're doing, or should they blow it up?
They should just
Pretty
balance it
straightforward.
out.
I think we could both be on the same page and keep it short with these guys. They just need to
Yeah,
figure out how to close out
yeah.
games. They have the good coach. They have a good quarterback. They were close in all the games they lost, starting with the how the regular season ended or started off with the game against the Chiefs. So yeah, just figure out how to win games, develop your players. You don't have to do anything drastic. They've brought in
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins, so I guess they're kind of thinking they need a little bit more pieces. But I think they're not missing any major pieces. They think they just need to find balance in their offense. What about
Mm-hmm.
the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that
Yeah,
took over the
absolutely.
conversation today? What should they do, JB?
Um, they need to go buy a quarterback, or they need to buy a quarterback, or they need to go. This is so interesting to me. They need to act. They need. I think they need to go buy a quarterback now, and then buy a high pick next off season to go get one of the rookie quarterbacks coming into the draft next year. So, and not, I mean, I'm not sold. The only guy that I'm kind of sold on, but it's going to cost way too much, is Cam Ward. Okay, because
Mhm.
that guy he changes outcomes. Okay, we saw it in Miami, and I think what's unfair to Cam Ward is this past off season was the first time that he was actually in some sort of a pro style offense, and it's something that maybe resembled that. Everything else was a shoot and go, and so I mean, I'm not sold on Cam Ward, but I think it's going to cost too much of a premium to go get him. So I think you buy a quarterback this year, buy a bridge guy, and then you set it up for next off season. Okay, we're going to make up our minds and we're going to trade up. We're
See,
going to trade as high as we can
every
go
sign that
to
of what
go
we've
get a
seen
guy
the
that
Pittsburgh
we can
Steelers
develop.
doing has pointed towards them going with the buy more pieces approach. But for the reason that you just gave, I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers should be more on the blow it up kind of approach. I know they're not gonna, but we're talking about what we feel they should do.
But
They
they're
have
not
had too
gonna.
much of the
They're
same,
not gonna do
no
that.
matter the approach, they have had too much of the same outcomes where they're finishing 9-8, 10-7, winning record, make the playoffs, first round exit in the playoffs. That is the going rate for the Pittsburgh Steelers the last 5 years. At some point, you need to acknowledge that's not good enough. You need to start from the bottom up, rebuild all of that. maybe not tank, but don't keep buying pieces. Except that maybe this year
Mm-hmm.
needs to be a down year. Blow up the pieces that you have. Get some draft capital so that if next year you either do really bad and you have a top pick, or you have all that draft capital from your pieces that you traded away, and you can move up and get a quarterback and start, like I mentioned earlier, start developing a young quarterback and have that long term solution instead of these plug and play players. So I would lean towards blow it up, but like you said, it doesn't seem like the Pittsburgh Steelers believe in blowing things up. They like buying pieces and making it work slowly but surely. Now, the Bengals.
Yeah.
What do we do with the Bengals? They're a tough one.
I mean, if they were gonna blow it up, I'd say trade Joe Burrow right now. Trade Joe Burrow to the Tennessee Titans for not just this year's number one, but for their next two number ones, and then use the assets you acquired from that to rebuild this atrocious defense that you
Of course
have.
not.
But that's not going to happen. But that's what I think they should do. I think they should just trade Burrow, trade him.
There was a take
Burrow,
that I heard this morning, and
start over.
the conversation
Start
was
over.
what is like the mantra or the script for an organization, and the script for the Bengals seems to regularly be, let's find a good quarterback, and they do a good job at finding good quarterbacks, even with Andy Dalton and Carson Palmer and now Joe Burrow. Like they keep finding good quarterbacks that get them to the playoffs, and then they do nothing else. So their mantra keeps being, let's just find a quarterback and expect him to carry us to the promised land. And Joe Burrow did a good job at that. At some point, you have to build a team, not just one position. So I would lean with blowing everything up. Jamar Chase, you should have franchise tagged him if you weren't going to sign him. They still haven't signed him. I don't know why. He's only getting more expensive every time there's a new contract in place. Joe Burrow can only do so much. The Bengals are between a rock and a hard place because Joe Burrow has shown that he is a really good quarterback, but that's about all you have because you don't want to play your players. So just blow it up, trade all the pieces you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, if you want to trade Joe Burrow, there's not going to be a better time to trade Joe Burrow than this year because he balled out last year. Blow it up, get a bunch of first round picks for him, and find all these pieces and actually sign those pieces. Keep those pieces around and build an entire offense and defense. So I think they should blow it up too. It's really that because they refuse to do anything else, the solution should be to blow it up because they're not building anything. They haven't done really any major actions even in free agency. They haven't done anything. And did I skip a team? No. The Cleveland Browns are last. Yeah, Cleveland.
No, they haven't. No, Cleveland. Yeah. You can't blow it up because there's no one there to blow it up with. There's nothing to balance because, I mean,
you can't buy because
Deshaun
Watson's taking all your money
off the ground.
Or sitting on the bench.
Just buy. Just buy. I mean, look, buy. Okay, I'll do this. Buy into the hope that this year is the year that Cleveland makes the playoffs. There you go.
Let's be clear. It's not going to be wishful hoping that Deshaun Watson is going to come back as the Deshaun Watson of old because the rumor is that he's going to be out all of this year again. So
hey, hope is the most potent where it shouldn't exist, and it shouldn't exist at all in Cleveland. Therefore, hope should be the most abundant. So buy into hope that this is the year
into Sanders and go draft him and hope that he's gonna be a good stopgap while Deshaun Watson's contract ends, and go buy at least like the What's the Johnny Manziel buying into the attention? Go draft Shadir Sanders so you can buy into the attention of at least a marquee player bringing.
Yeah. I'll say this. I'll do this. Buy into the hope that whoever holds the number one overall pick doesn't draft Cam
Hmm.
Ward. Okay? And you get Cam Ward at number 2. Buy
It's
into
still
that.
hope. We're still giving you hope.
There you go, Cleveland
Whatever
fans.
whatever
Buy
that
into
does
that
to
hope.
tell you.
There you go. It's hope. It's more hopeful than you making the
There you
playoffs.
go.
Just
Or I
hope
don't. I feel
that
like
Cam Ward falls to you at
this is a
number 2.
conversation for another time, I guess. But between Cam Ward, Shadir Sanders, and why am I blanking on his name? The two-way player. Between those three, just take a good. Yeah, there you go, Travis Hunter. Just hope that fans hope that your franchise gets one of those three and kind of does something with them, at least to give you some hope. So yeah, JB's right. Buy into some hope, and that will close out our buy, balance, or blow it up segment once again. JB.
Here we go. I'm going to leave you on this. Cincinnati blows it up, trades Joe Burrow to Tennessee. Tennessee drafts Cam Ward with the first pick. There you go. Because Zach Taylor can maybe
Not the
actually do
worst.
something with
Not
Cam
the
Ward.
worst. All right, JB, do you have a new segment for us? Do you have a new?
I have a new segment for us, and it's called Celebrity Death Spat. Because I can't say the other thing I want to say because that's already trademarked. Celebrity Death Spat is that this is a new segment that won't be reoccurring. It will take place whenever there is a noteworthy or newsworthy sports spat between athletes or athletes and commentators or journalists. For this first inaugural segment of Celebrity Death Spat, it is going to be between LeBron and Stephen A. Now, here are the rules, okay? We are going to take the imagination from that old 90s MTV a show that we both know and love, or at least I do. And we are going to imagine what that fight would be like between these two.
You
So,
know what? Give me Stephen
Manny,
A. I'll
do
take
you want to take
Stephen A.
LeBron or do you want to take Stephen A? Yes. Awesome. Okay. All right. Ding, ding, ding. Round one. All right. Here they come in the middle of the ring. LeBron James standing 6 foot and tearful eyed. And Stephen A, all 4'7" and ego. Oh, coming into the middle. Here we go. Let's keep it clean, folks. Nothing below the belt. All right. So, bam. All right.
Bam.
So, you're
I'm
Stephen
gonna
A.
ask Stephen A.
So tell me
For
what you're
those
gonna
of
do to
you
me.
that don't regularly see me on TV, I look very professional on TV. But I'll have y'all know I have a very street side of my persona that people don't see. I'm gonna bring out the brass knuckles. I'm gonna bring out all the street fighting drama and take on a giant in LeBron James.
Well, I know those. I know as Stephen A. Those brass knuckles are going to be left cheek and right cheek since you talk out the both sides of your mouth. And as LeBron, when you throw those words of violence at me, I'm going to flop to the ground
As
and I'm
a
going to pretend that you
retaliation to
really
that,
hurt me.
as Stephen A, because Stephen A takes such professionalism to his take, I'm gonna act like the victim and pretend like I don't understand where this violence is coming from. I'm gonna be a professional and I'm gonna be shocked that somebody would approach me with such indignity because I am a man of stature that takes my job very seriously. So for you to come after me is very inappropriate.
Well, because of that inappropriateness and you trying to play victim better than me, I'm going to come at you with an elbow to the face, and then I'm going to pretend that, oh, what? No, he started it.
So
He tried to be a bigger victim than me.
we're gonna both
I'm
end
the
up on the
biggest
mat
victim
and
here.
both be crying that the other guy played unfair. Is that where we're going down this path?
We're going to both end up on the mat. We're just going to be
Yeah,
slapping each other.
this
That's what
way,
it's going to be.
sideways too,
We're going to slap each
not
other
straightforward,
with boxing
sideways
gloves.
slapping.
Yeah. Yeah. Until we get to the point where Rich Paul jumps into the ring and smashes you with a fist, and then all of that money and all that ego comes out of your butt, and then you die on the mat.
Oh man, that drop.
At which point ESPN's going to bring litigation against LeBron, and then they're going to remember, oh no, he's our biggest victim advocate. We can't sue him. Never mind, LeBron, you win the match.
By unanimous decision, LeBron will win because ratings matter more. There you go. There's your celebrity death. What is it, spat?
There you go.
All right. Well, we're done then.
Death spat.
We're gonna skip on the fix of six, and we're gonna, for the sake of our celebrity death spat having a good platform. So on that note, we're done, JB. What have you been drinking?
I was drinking.
I've been wanting to try wild turkey, but people keep scaring me from it.
Rare breed.
They keep telling me it's something that can sneak up on
you. Don't be scared. So this rare breed is just under 117 proof. It's pretty good. Yeah, and I was smoking a Liga Privada number 9. So it's a Drew Estate. They roll them really tight. The key into not having to relight
too much work
is to punch a hole right here
to do all these extra measures
in order to keep the draft going.
Just let me cut it, light it, and keep going with my life. That's
you cut it and you punch a hole.
I brought my old granddad 114 proof Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey out once again because the only other option was to bring out that bourbon that I had last episode, and that was not what I was in the mood for. So 114 it was, and I am a happy camper once again because this definitely hits the spot.
Nice. Well, folks, that ends today's edition of Box Scores and Bourbon. As always, watch the video, the whole episode video on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You can listen to the audio only on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon, and you can catch additional content on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Box Scores and at
everyone.
BSB Sports 24. And until next time, folks, stay thirsty.